Well, today on Air Check Your Life, we're going to air check your relationship, your marriage, and we're going to do so with Jackie Kelley. That's her right there. Jackie, are you familiar with the concept of air checking?
Not at all.
Not at all. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where unless you spend 100 years in the broadcasting field, you're really not too familiar with it. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, like Jackie is, it's what we would do every single day when we got off the radio or we got out of the studio or got done with the TV production. We would sit back, we would watch back our show or listen back to our show, and we would ask three questions. What did we get right today? What was okay, but if we're going to do it again, we need to tweak it? And what should we never do again because it probably cost us an audience? And so today we're going to apply that concept to our marriage, and I'm going to challenge the group of people that are listening to it. And I'm going to ask you this question too, Jackie. But the question that I want you all to answer silently to yourselves right now, or at least start thinking about, is what are you getting right in your marriage? Like right now, if you were to sit down and have a piece of paper in front of you, what would you list as the things that you and your spouse were getting right? And then now, what are some things that like are okay, but if you put a little effort into them, they would be better? And then on the tail end of that, like what are you doing to, as I like to say, get in your own way of having the kind of relationship that you want? And I suspect today, Jackie, that we're going to be swimming in that middle spot a lot with you. And we're going to be talking to people who, you know what, it's going okay, but they've gotten to that spot in their relationship where they're like, but it could be better. And I think this is what you bring to the table. And so why Jackie Kelley? Well, she's written a book on the subject, and I'm going to pop it up here on the screen for everybody to see. It's called So You Married a Human. And I absolutely love the title of that. And now it's your turn, Jackie. In your own marriage, if you're willing to be vulnerable here this morning, what are you getting right?
That's a great question. And not to toot my own horn, but
Please,
my
toot
husband
away.
and I get a lot of stuff right. And I say over and over again is the only reason we are getting it right is because we got it wrong for a very long time.
Mm.
And I don't, with everything in life, you don't know how to do it right until you fail over and over again. And my husband and I did not grow up in families where our parents gave us really good examples of how
Mm.
to respect, love, safety, conflict management, any of that. So when we got married super young, I was 21, he was 23, I was 2 weeks out of college. We had no groundwork and we just failed over and over again in every category. And we had no option but to figure it out ourselves because even within the church, within friends, we couldn't find anybody further along to help us. So we kind of just DIY'd it to a degree. And so now we're about to celebrate our 12th anniversary. And thank you, through the 12 years of really trying over and over again and having so much grace with each other, there are very few things in our day to day where I think we really screwed that up. And if there is something, we know immediately how to come at it respectfully and find a resolution and talk about it in a way that facilitates growth instead of name calling, finger pointing, anything along those lines. But if I had to peg down specifically, I think we are expert communicators, which is like, I always joke and say the unsexiest thing, but it is the best thing for a marriage to be able to openly communicate feelings, expectations, boundaries, all of that. And I think it's a cornerstone of a successful relationship with anyone.
And from that standpoint, one of the things I talk about on the stage is something I call unemotional accountability, where we can hold each other accountable, but as you just said a second ago, without all the finger pointing, without all the blaming, with all the, the venom that can come with these things, because we've maybe put off the conversation a little bit too long. And now the thing we're fighting about isn't about the thing we're fighting about. Okay. So I like it. You guys are, what you're getting right is that you're communicating with each other. What's okay, but like is something you still have to be conscious of and work on.
I would say we still work. My husband owns his own business. So we really struggle to find time to hang out with each other.
Mm.
We both also, a lot of the time, have very different hobbies. We're both very hobby oriented people. So I feel like with that, sometimes we have to work really hard to make time to hang out with each other. We're not one
Okay.
that like gets home at the same time and ends up on the couch every night and eats dinner tonight. It's just with the way our careers and everything have gone, it is hard to prioritize that. So sometimes I do look at other married couples. I'm like, oh, I'm so jealous that you
Yeah.
guys get to spend time, but we can't do it passively, which means we need to do it intentionally. And it just takes a little bit more effort and follow through for us if we are going to be spending time together.
Now the dreaded question. What are you getting wrong, or what are you doing that's costing you? Or and please, no fluff here. Like no thing that sounds like it's a bad thing, but it's actually a good thing. And maybe there isn't anything. Maybe you guys are killing it right now and you're running in all cylinders. So that is fair.
I'm trying to think if there's really anything. I
All
can't
right.
think of anything we're
I
doing
love it.
totally. I think no. I'm like, even parenting, we have 2 young boys
Mm,
and we don't always get that right, but we're always on the same page. So I think those are some of our toughest conversations is around raising our kids.
yeah.
And I think that's that thing in the back of your head. You're always like, oh gosh, am I screwing them up forever?
And the
So
answer is yes.
thankfully,
The answer is
yes,
yes, but
I
they're
know
going to be
whatever we do,
okay.
they're going to be in therapy. But I think that's, and I write my book about seeing things through different lenses. And he grew up in such a different culture, atmosphere, family system than I did.
Mm.
So where I want to parent this way, he's like, that's an insane way to parent. We parent this way. And I'm like, well, that's an insane way to parent. And so I think that's sometimes where we get stuck is when we are looking at the same issue through 2 very different lenses, and neither one is wrong because it is built solely off of our experiences, and experience isn't wrong, but really getting to the bottom of why do you think that's a bad idea versus why do you think that's a good idea, and
Mm.
trying not to totally shut your spouse down when you're like, that's an insane thought. But it's
So
not
let me ask
insane
you
to
this
this.
question. Let me ask you this question, Jackie Kelley. Why did you write this book? I've done close to, well, 1,000 interviews in my life, but I've done about 300 in this area, in this space. And I'll share with you that one of the most common things that I experienced throughout this last 5 years is that everybody who's in the work they're in was there because they needed it first. And so you sort of alluded to that earlier, but why did you want to write this book?
I say at the beginning of the book, this is the book I wish I could have handed my parents when they first got married, because they were
Mm,
also, I mean, my grandpa was a World War II veteran before PTSD was a thing. I mean, there was so much baggage that their parents had that didn't get dealt with. And I believe that every generation gets better. But this is what I wish I could have given my parents. It's what I wish I could have given my husband and I when we first got married. In
yeah.
addition to that, in the Christian sphere of marriage books, I think a lot of them fall into the trap of putting genders into these weird boxes of like the women will always be more emotional, the women will always be more impulsive, the men will always not want to talk about their feelings. Just very much like if you are a man, this is who you are in the marriage. If you are a woman, this is who you are in the marriage. And if you're not that person, then you read these books and you're like, well, that doesn't sound like me. So I've made it a very big point in this book to refer to everyone as spouse because there is no specific way anyone needs to be in a marriage. And people are the way they are because of their personalities, how they were raised. And I just think it's so detrimental to tell people these are going to be your issues and you're going to struggle with this and you're going to struggle with this because of your gender. And if not, you're broken.
Yeah, I was thinking about that today on my walk ahead of recording this conversation with you. I was like, in every relationship, doesn't matter, man or woman, there's somebody who wants to talk about it and there's somebody who doesn't want to talk about it. There's somebody who wants to fix things and there's somebody who's really comfortable with the way that things are.
Yes.
Like you're right. It's not a gender specific thing. There are some things that can typically fall into categories, but I think you're spot on. To do that then alienates people that you might have a chance of getting to, which I know is the goal of the book. I've written a couple of them myself, and you're generally writing this thing, and you're going, I hope it helps somebody.
Yeah.
I want to ask you this: you write in the book, you have these like easy to follow marriage rules. And some of these popped out at me, things like voted off the island, date your spouse, no smack talk, weird math for marriage. I'm sure they're going to be so helpful to people. So, what made you come up with these little fun, easy marriage rules? And then, like, give me a couple of your favorites, and then tell us how to do them. So that's a pretty loaded question, and
Okay.
we may go back and forth on it. But like, what made you want to come up with an easy to follow marriage rule guide, if you will?
So my husband and I are both neurodivergent, which means we are very bad at reading between the lines in terms of um, we can't be passive, and we're very good with prompts. And so a lot of these little rules came from prompts to remind ourselves over and over again instead of having to over explain ourselves.
Mhm.
Um, so one of the ones that we do is moral of the story. So one of our biggest fights we ever had was about toilet paper, and the fact that my husband kept asking me to put the toilet paper on the roll when I was refilling it. And because I'm a monster, I just kept setting it on top because I refused to go the extra mile. And this went on forever. And we got into this huge fight about the toilet paper. And I finally realized, I'm like, oh, is this not about the toilet paper?
Right. Actually,
This is
nothing to
about
do with the toilet paper. Right.
nothing to do with the toilet paper. It was
Right.
about respect. It was about all of these other things being listened to, being railroaded. And so now, if we are in an argument that is just spiraling out of control and you're just talking in circles about things that don't seem to matter, one of us can call moral of the story. And that is when we step back and say, okay, like what is actually going on here? What is the deep down icky feeling that you are feeling that is causing this? And that's when someone will be like, oh, I don't think I'm feeling very prioritized. And it's like, okay, because we can fix that you're not feeling prioritized. We can't just keep talking in circles about the fact that my husband's always late coming home from work. We can't change his job right now. So you can't find a solution until you identify the problem. But I think so many of us get stuck with all these surface problems because self reflection feels really gross sometimes. But when we call moral of the story, and sometimes that means we need to step back and stop talking for a while to do some self reflection. But it just allows for a level of starting to find a solution and actually identifying the problem.
Let's
Uh,
stay in this lane for just a
yeah.
second longer. Give me some other examples for people that are listening to us about, because I love this. The fight is never about the fight. It's always about, like what you said. It's about, I'm not feeling prioritized right now. I'm feeling a little disrespected right now. I'm feeling this. Give me some other examples of common scenarios, either that are in your book or that you've experienced in your life, where the fight wasn't about the fight, it was actually about this.
Oh my gosh, every day. Every day we've had arguments about interactions with in-laws on either sides of ours. We had one where I think I was in a fight with my mom or my dad, and my husband sided with them, and I was like, I was like, how dare you? And it came down to it. I was like, oh, I'm feeling looked over. I'm feeling like this isn't fair. I'm feel like it's we joke and we call something, we'll be like, that sounds like a you problem. And a lot of the time, a lot of issues in marriage are a you problem of, okay, I haven't done enough of dealing with my own crap. And now it's
Yes.
coming up in these ways. Um, we had one too where my husband really wanted to take flying lessons and get his pilot's license. And I hated that idea and I couldn't figure out why. And we kept fighting and I was coming up with all these excuses. And when we got down to it, I was a new mom with a baby and I felt really jealous that I couldn't pursue my passions. And from there, we can find a solution. So instead of me just killing his dream, okay, we now need to work more time into the schedule. We need to be able to prioritize Jackie going and doing stuff instead of just killing my husband's dream.
Love that.
We can find a solution on the other end. But when you're just like, I don't like it, I want to kill this dream, you never get to the bottom of why do you hate this? Why does this make you so mad? Why does this make you so sad, so upset, so defensive? But it does take all of that deep self-reflection to get to that point.
Oh my God, so good. And look, I have said these two words 50,000 times on this podcast. And so my audience, I know you're tired of hearing about it, but I don't care. It all boils down to something that Dr. Elizabeth Fedrick calls relational programming. How you grew up and the way that you were raised and the experiences that you have everything to do with how you're shaped and how you think and all the things. And so I love that you're challenging us as couples to take a look at that and say, what's the moral of the story here? Like, what's really going on? In the 5 or so minutes that we have left, let's talk about voted off the island. That one catches my attention. So does Smack Talk. So let's jump into that a little bit. What do you mean when you say voted off the island?
This one, my friend actually just texted me the other day and said, two of my friends in the past week and said, I just got voted off the island. So this more so applies with young kids, but I think we have all been in a space, if we're all home as a family, where one spouse is just ruining it for everyone. They are overwhelmed, overstimulated, dysregulated. They've had a really hard time and they are just a disaster. And so in those moments, you are allowed to look at your spouse and say, you've been voted off the island, which means you need to leave. You need to go take care of yourself. So go watch a movie, go get a drink, go call your mom, touch some grass, take a nap, just like go. It is time for your self-care now. And I am going to hold down the fort here because honestly, things are better without your bad vibes here. So you go do you. I'm telling you, you need to go take care of yourself and then come back when you're in a better headspace and we can go from there. And it's not a punishment. That's the main thing. It is aggressive enforcement of self-care, because I think as parents, we sometimes just keep shoving it down, and our spouses know us better than anyone on this planet. And they can see the crazy and they can see like, oh, they're not doing so well. And so my husband and I have both very frequently voted each other off the island of, hey, I know you've had a hard week. And I know I said I wanted a family time today, but you look exhausted. And why don't you go meet up with a friend for a beer? Why don't you go take a nap? Why don't you go cross all those things off your list that are just like in the back of your head, gnawing at you right now? And then we can come back and like, and everything's
Yeah.
good again. Yeah.
So there's two things that have to happen there if I'm reading this correctly. Like number one is you don't say it in a way where you're angry or you're pissy or you're coming at them. But then the second piece of that is the person can't get all butthurt about it either.
No. It's a free afternoon out. I would never be butthurt.
Right.
I mean, I've always been like, okay, because sometimes you just need permission. Think especially as moms,
Amen.
we are told to take care of everything and just kind of you just keep going, no matter what's happening. And my friend, one of my best friends, has 4 kids, and it was just one of those days where her kids were yelling at each other in the back seat, and then one kid fell in the pool, and then another kid broke a cup, and her husband got home and looked at her and was like, goodbye. Like, I got this.
Yeah.
You go because you need a minute. But you don't want to be the adult who's like, I'm going to leave. But we have gotten to the point, my husband and I, where through this process of becoming a lot more emotionally self-aware, have been like, I need to vote myself off the island. Like,
yes.
I need to go now. And the other spouse is always like, okay, I got it. Because it's easier without your downward spiral spouse there.
Yeah, we used to say when our kids were little, we used to say, babe, I need an energy shift. Like the room needs an energy shift. The house needs an energy shift right now. And I'm probably the reason for it. This is all really, really, really cool. Can you give me the 30-second version of Smack Talk?
Yeah, we just have a super high bar, a specific policy. We don't talk crap about each other to our friends. And we don't ever say mean things about each other to each other. I mean, I grew up in a house where there was a lot of name calling, especially in heated moments. We have never, ever, ever in 12 years, not once name called each other, because it's just, we don't tolerate it. And if my husband ever did call me a name, I'd be like, are you okay? Because it's so off brand for us. And then additionally, there's a difference between talking to trusted friends to get advice from people who support and are rooting for your marriage. And then there is just complaining about how little your husband does, or that your wife isn't having enough sex with you, and yada, yada, yada. So finding the line between sincerely working with friends to support your marriage and encourage you versus I just want to complain about this person, it's just not a good look. And so we always say, imagine if your spouse heard what you were saying right now. Would that be kosher? Imagine if your spouse was saying about you what you're saying about them. How would you feel about that? And would it be embarrassing? Would you be mortified? And the chances are yes. And if and any of those answers are yes, you shouldn't be saying it because this is the person you married. And if you would be ashamed for them to know what you're saying about them to your friends, then you shouldn't be saying it.
Somebody said once, and this was a couple of years ago on one of these episodes, somebody said, "I'm not gossiping, I'm processing." And I was like, but you're kind of still talking smack. Okay, let's be honest. You're kind of still talking smack. Well, Jackie Kelley, thank you. The book is out right there. Bam. So You Married a Human, and you said it's got a little bit of a faith base to it, which I think is fantastic because look, it's been my experience, and I kind of alluded to this to you before you and I started taping today, that I'm back in the church and after a real long hiatus. And one of the drawbacks for me was that, and I mean that in the sense of what drew me back was that I wasn't feeling very spiritually connected. And I can share with you and people that are listening right now, when I don't feel spiritually connected to something, I can feel a little bit like I'm wandering, and I can feel a little bit like I'm all over the place and a little bit chaotic. And what faith does for me, and I've gone through different religions over my adult life, is it's helped ground me in something. So I appreciate that you're taking a chance and putting that out there like that. And I look forward to seeing you at church. Well, I won't be there this weekend because I have to travel for a funeral
Okay.
tomorrow. But I'll look forward to seeing you at the Grove one of the next times that we hang out. And thank you so much for being a guest on our
Of
show today.
course. Thank you.
Yeah. Loved it. There's the book right there. Thanks everybody for watching. Please don't forget, you hit the like, you hit the subscribe button. What it does is it doesn't make me feel all that great, but it helps other people find our show. And I believe that we're doing the kind of content on this podcast that's making people's lives a little easier. So hit it when you can, and we will see everybody